Well, tension is brewing between e-hailing drivers and taxi owners at Protea Glen Mall in Soweto. A vehicle was set alight in the last 24 hours after e-hailing operators were accused of taking customers and not being registered. It comes just days after similar scenes played out at nearby Protea Mall. Suniko Mhlaba has more.
We're still here in Soweto, in Protea. Let's get a sense of what exactly is the problem between the e-hailing service and the taxi association. Let's bring in a community leader here, a ward councillor, who has tried to engage with the e-hailing services to get a sense of what are the frustrations and what must be the way forward from now on. Bob Councillor, thank you very much, sir, for your time. From what you've heard, from what you know historically, what is the main problem here?
The main problem is that the e-hailing people are coming inside the mall to pick up their customers, but also we have taxi rank inside the mall. So the problem that I'm picking up, as I've just engaged a few minutes ago with the e-hailing people, is that some of the people who are picking up the customers with the groceries is that they are not registered. So the taxi owners, they believe that these people are taking business from them. But then I've spoken to them all last week, I think it was on Wednesday, when I had a meeting discussing this particular matter. The mall did indicate that they have created a space for the e-hailing people, their Bolt, your Taxifier, so that they can be separated. One, they'll be on the other end, taxi rank, it's on the other end of the mall. But now the problem is that there is no communication between the two, and they feel, the Bolt people, that the taxi owners are bullying them, are forcing them to do things that they don't want to do. So as we speak now, we are going to have a meeting where the e-hailing people, taxi association, myself as the ward councillor, the center manager, will sit around and discuss this matter. But also what I'm picking up is that the e-hailing people are saying there's a security which is 24/7. The 24/7 is working with the taxi owners and chasing them out of the mall. So we need to get answers from them, from the center manager, in as far as that is concerned.
I mean, broadly, we know that this is not an isolated issue. There was an issue at Protea Mall. As stakeholders, you might be the ward of this side, but as government, to some extent, how broad is this situation, and what are you going to do to make sure that you end it all?
As the government, we are having a meeting tomorrow, 10 o'clock, at Cliptown Police Station, where all councillors that have their malls in their wards and all the station commanders of the police stations around Soweto, we are going to have a meeting and deal with this thing right to the bottom and come up with a sustainable solution so that everybody comes out there being a winner, because we don't want the losers and the winners. But all of us, we must come out understanding each other, that one, we are serving the community, all of us. Myself, the taxi owners, the e-hailing, we are serving the community, and we cannot risk the life of the community on the basis of who's going to benefit better than the other.
Let's talk more about the story. We're joined tonight by the Private Public Transport Association of South Africa's spokesperson, Vhatuka Mbelengwa, who's with me in studio. Very good evening to you, sir. What is behind this latest flare-up? Because it's now happened at two separate malls in Gauteng.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I think essentially what's happening is that it's a continuation of the problem that has been happening historically. E-hailing has got an undefined relationship with the public transport sector. Its role is not defined. E-hailing in itself is not effectively defined. And therefore, you're finding that industry is being undermined by this new service, which has the potential to really be a good key player within the transportation mix within the country.
Is it that this or these incidents of violence have been happening through the years? And I say through the years, referencing the major period about 4 years ago, when even around Gautrain stations, for example, there were reports of e-hailing drivers being attacked in Pretoria. One was even set on fire in his vehicle. Has it been a case of sporadic violence that has just not been reported, or is this new? Is this a new
set of incidents? It's certainly, well, look, there's new incidences which keep reoccurring, but the attack in itself, the violent experience of the e-hailing industry is certainly not new. I think the biggest problem we're dealing with here, and we need to understand that this is a frustrated industry that is going to then implode if government doesn't step in and regulate and define the role of each participant and each player effectively, so we know what the parameters are.
Well, government had seen, it had appeared government was stepping in some capacity. They've also called for calm, for instance, from what happened at Protea Mall last week, and for appropriate channels to be used to resolve this. How committed have they been to the cause as far as putting an end to the tension between e-hailing and metered cab operators?
Calling for calm is not enough. We really need to deal with the root cause. And the root cause is regulating. So government will only be convincing in wanting to resolve this issue the minute they actually then take proper regulatory steps. I mean, we've had a bill that's been in and out of the president's office. We've been at the front line of trying to drive awareness for the past, since 2014, 2015, since e-hailing has been in the country. Several people have lost their lives. Violence continues to escalate. Industry is feeling undermined.
Do you expect it will get worse?
I expect it to get worse. And I think what will make it even worse, and what really concerns me, is that there seems to be an assumption within society that e-hailing and your taxi guys are at odds with each other. And that's not the case. We're actually trying to find a synergy. But if our government doesn't step in and regulate, e-hailing companies like Uber and Bolt will continually undermine sector. Their pricing undermines sector. There isn't a price determining instrument that's reflective of the service.
How are you trying, though, and I hear you on the very valid issues around regulation, pricing, etc. How are you all not at odds, to use your turn of phrase, when e-hailing cars are going up in flames? That suggests that you're very clearly at odds, because if you're pushing in one direction, there wouldn't be one side suffering losses as a result.
We can't address the matter at a surface level. Right, it's a policy decision.
Yes,
it's a regulatory framework.
It's honest to suggest that they're all pushing in one direction when only one side has vehicles being torched.
What's also incorrect is for us to continually paint a particular segment of society and say taxi drivers are violent, taxi drivers are attacking people, right? Although, and we can't say that it's true because nobody's being arrested, nobody's being prosecuted and being put on trial after all these burnings that say, and we can
so
effectively
who else would have done, if not the taxi industry?
Well, look, maybe you know better. If you are that concerned,
I'm asking you because you're in the sector.
Right?
Who else would have done?
I'm saying it's a criminal act. Burning people's vehicles is a criminal act, and those who do so should be arrested and prosecuted, and effective investigations should be let out. I'm not going to assume it's the taxi industry. I'm not going to go and victimize them further when the whole industry is being victimized, when it's being undermined because government is not regulating. Government is not stepping in to define each player's role effectively.
But you also cannot pretend that there isn't evidence in the past that clearly points to metered cab drivers in particular being the ones doing most of the harassing. People will tell you stories just in Johannesburg and Pretoria about how metered cab operators have forced them out of Ubers. Uber drivers in Johannesburg. I remember an incident in the CBD where I was in the back of an Uber and had to endure questioning by metered cab operators who wanted to know my relation to the driver, where we were coming from, and basically ordered him to leave. That very clearly points to violence on their end.
I'm in no way saying or suggesting that violent acts have not occurred.
Yes.
I'm saying for us to permanently resolve them, let us deal with the root cause of it, right? So historically, from the meter taxis, now spilling into traditional taxis, your 16-seaters, your local operators, everybody's growing. It's a growing frustration because they're being undermined, right? So let us regulate this industry. And regulation isn't a new concept. Big industry is regulated. The difference here is that this regulation seeks to protect the ordinary man who's gone out of his way to finance a vehicle so he can earn a decent income and be a positive participant within the South African economy.
How do the two then come together to push in the same direction for better regulation? Because I recall when all of this started, the other complication with Uber and Bolt, for example, was that these were not employees but driver partners, and the powers in some of the cases at the time lay out of the country even.
Look, we are calling for unity amongst public transportation operators. We are calling for unity so that we can address the problem and challenge government. I think we can't continually blame each other. We need to hold government to account. We need to hold ministers, MECs, and the president to account. You know, there is a legitimate gripe on every end here, and it can only be resolved if we regulate this industry. You know, we can't continually speak of exploitation. Competition Commission has expressed that this is an exploitative industry.
Should Uber charge more? Because the criticism has been not just Uber, that e-hailing is cheaper and therefore they have the advantage from that score, just at a basic level.
Well, I think we need to understand how we want the transportation mix to function. Yes, Uber should charge more, but more importantly, there should be a control of influx of vehicle. Now, what's happening is that because they bear no responsibility for the financial implication of oversupplying vehicles, they are continually adding vehicles onto the platform. Therefore, there are too many cars available, and hence you're then seeing unhealthy competition arising, right? Our traditional taxis are regulated. They must operate within a route. Meter taxis are regulated. Even their prices were regulated, right? What is the governing policy? What is the governing framework for e-hailing, and how is it going to complement the transportation sector and not undermine it? And we need to appreciate the human element here. You understand? It isn't a policy or a global company. It's a young man, it's a young woman trying to earn a living that's being burnt in a vehicle. You quoted the young man that was killed in Pretoria, burnt in his vehicle. He was about to graduate. Another young brother of ours was just graduated as a lawyer, was shot and killed in a hijacking. Because if you regulate, we're going to call for the positive capturing of identification, right? Which will then allow us to track the people who are hijacking us, attacking us, requesting these vehicles to these spots where these heinous crimes are being executed.
It's a massive issue, and it'll take a lot to resolve it. Vhatuka Mbelengwa, thank you so much for coming in tonight.